Welcome to It's Tea Time. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. For this week, Jonathan is on assignment, but I'll be handling his duties. And with us, as always, Athletic Director John Hartwell. John, thanks for joining us today.
Sure, Aaron. Great to be here.
And obviously here after an exciting homecoming weekend, probably one of the more thrilling games in Veterans Memorial Stadium that at least I've seen in a while.
Well, if you're going to draw it up from a fan's perspective, certainly the way that Saturday played out, right down literally to the final play of the game, could not have been any more exciting. And obviously the win makes it even more exciting. But wow, what a thriller. And, you know, kind of the build-up for the week was, hey, this whole South Alabama-Troy rivalry, even though it was the first time, second time we'd played in football, the first time here in Veterans Memorial Stadium. But wow, what a finish. And certainly you've got to give credit to Coach Larry Blakeney and the never say die attitude of this football team, and certainly with two seniors between Corey Robinson leading, you know, a 70-plus yard drive down the field, and certainly Eric Thomas doing his Superman impersonation, literally having two guys holding on to him.
There was a headlock involved there at one point.
Absolutely, and to have the concentration, not only to have two guys draped on him, but also tipping the ball, and him being able to have the concentration and presence of mind to catch it to win the ball game. Well, to tie the ball game, because certainly you've got to give Will Scott and the special teams credit for getting the extra point through the uprights to come away with the 1-point victory at the end. But again, at the end of the day and at the end of the season, it goes as a W in the books, and certainly heartbreak for South Alabama, and you've got to give them credit because they played a great game. But at the end of the day, as the smoke clears, as I told Coach Blakeney and our players the other day, we're halfway to bowl eligibility now, so evening the record at 3-3.
And you mentioned that rivalry, and that's the kind of game that builds a rivalry. I mean, obviously it's there. It's an in-state rivalry. It's a conference foe. So as, you know, from the perspective of selling tickets and getting folks excited, obviously a game like that is something to help build a rivalry.
Oh, it really does. And for the folks that were there, certainly a game to go down in the memory books. But certainly those that were there are going to tell others, hey, next year you can't miss that Troy South Alabama game, because there's sure to be fireworks. And you know, for a weekend that began, we thought under the threat of a tropical storm that kind of dissipated, turned into a beautiful day. You know, upper 70s, crystal clear skies. I think we had just over 23,000. I think our maybe our third largest attendance ever for a Sun Belt Conference game. So it was just almost a picture-perfect homecoming weekend.
Minus the heart attack possibility there at the end of the game for some people.
Sure, not for the faint of heart, but again, at the end of the day, it was great, and certainly football was just a part of the weekend. You know, soccer and volleyball both had successful weekends, both getting big wins. Certainly, the Saturday morning homecoming parade in downtown Troy was a success. Friday night had a great induction ceremony with 4 new folks going into the Baseball Hall of Fame. They had an old-timers game as well. So just a very festive weekend and successful weekend on the Troy campus.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit of business real quick. Something that came out of Saturday's game, some suspensions and some ejections from the game, and I know you probably had to be dealing with that since Saturday's game. Give us a little bit of update on what's going on with that situation.
Sure. Obviously, a lot of my time has been spent in the last 48 hours between the film room with football and reviewing some of these plays, and then certainly in dialogue with our conference office. And let me begin by saying, certainly I understand, and we certainly want to abide by the spirit of the rule, because it's certainly to protect the welfare of our student athletes, of our football student athletes, and totally for that. And certainly a high-speed game with big, strong athletes and some violent collisions. The targeting rules that are getting the emphasis this year are certainly on the well-being and welfare of the student athletes, which we're totally for. You know, there are some of these rulings, though, that have some subjectivity to them. And from our perspective, we just want to make sure that the application is is being done across the board, fairly across the board. And you're right, we have two guys, Tyler Roberts, one of our defensive ends, and Chris Pickett, one of our defensive backs, who little different stories on both of them. Chris was called for a flagrant foul, a targeting foul, late in the second half of the game Saturday against South Alabama. By rule, he was ejected. The replay upheld that, and he will have to sit out the first half of the game Saturday in the Georgia Dome against Georgia State. The other one, Tyler Roberts, no foul called during the game. It was actually in a review of the film post-game by the replay official who called it to the attention of the supervisor of officials, went back and reviewed and said that Tyler lowered his head, even though his hit was to the shoulder pad area, lower shoulder pad area of the South Alabama quarterback, said that he lowered his head, even though it was almost a picture-perfect textbook tackle. He wraps up with his arms, but said that he lowered and led with the crown of his head. So by rule, they've gone back and said he will be suspended for the first half of the game Saturday also. So certainly, and our coaching staff has done a great job of going back and knowing that this is a point of emphasis, making sure they're teaching proper tackling technique. And, for our league to go through the first 6 weeks of the season and not have, the first 5 weeks of the season, no suspensions, no ejections for this purpose. And then in week 6, there are 2, and they both happen to be Troy players. Again, we just want to make sure that these rules are being applied consistently across our league. There was also another player, Antonio Gillespie, who in the first half, and in his case, he admitted his error. He got caught in the bottom of a pile. To give you a little inside information, he came into my office first thing yesterday. He said, "Mr. Hartwell, I want to apologize to you. I've apologized to my teammates. I apologize to Coach Blakeney. I lost my cool," and he threw an elbow to the head, and certainly that's going to get you tossed every time. And I said, "Hey, Tony, what happened?" He said, "Hey, we're on the bottom of a pile." He said the guy literally, the South Alabama player, literally grabbed him around the stomach and was pinching him. And he said instead of slapping his arms down, I kind of gave him a forearm shiver. But again, those things happen in the heat of battle, and he admitted his mistake. He said, "Hey, I've got to keep my cool." So
whoever makes contact last is the one that usually gets caught.
Exactly.
So.
But because his was in the first half of the game, he was obviously ejected from the game at that point and served his suspension the second half. So he will be available to play, right off the bat Saturday in the Georgia Dome. But we will be without the services of defensive end Tyler Roberts and defensive back Chris Pickett to start the ball game.
But the Tyler thing, going back to video, I've never really heard of that before. Has this happened before?
As we've done our research again in the last day or so, apparently it happened earlier this year in a game between Wyoming and Air Force. There was a Wyoming player who, upon further review, even though no penalty was thrown in the game, was in the subsequent review singled out and suspended for a half of a game too. So again, a pretty tough rule there, but we'll swallow our medicine and march forward. And again, I think we've made our point known to the league office and to our supervisor of officials. Hey, we totally want to make sure we abide by the rules, and certainly want to protect the student-athlete welfare, but we want to make sure it's applied consistently across the board.
Well, it's good to know that there's a precedent there. So this is not the first time it's happened.
Sure.
So, now let's talk about this weekend. Obviously, there is a big game on the road, an opportunity, another first time against a conference opponent, Georgia State, in the Georgia Dome. So an exciting trip, and it's also one of those, I guess, easy trips because it's just a short bus trip up the road.
It really is, and we're expecting a large Trojan contingent, to make the 2.5-hour ride up I-85 and to the Georgia Dome, and it'll be Georgia State's homecoming. It's their first ever Sun Belt Conference game. They have yet to play a conference game, so exciting there. But I'd love to see us have more Trojans in the stands than there are Panther fans. A little bit special and a homecoming for me as well, because I spent 6 years at Georgia State pre-football from 1997 to 2003. But really, when the whole idea of football was in its infancy there, but an opportunity for us to get a road win. And yes, Georgia State is 0-5, but they've obviously got some talented players, and we've got to come ready to play, and hopefully find a way to get out of there with a win, get to 4-3 in the league, and 4-3 overall, 2-1 in the league. And again, you start getting to this time of year, you start counting games and say, hey, how many more till we get to that magic 6 of bowl eligibility, which is obviously our goal.
And staying in the conference hunt as well. So once you get a win this weekend, you stay there in that conference hunt. So.
Absolutely. Our eyes on the prize, and that's a conference championship and the opportunity to represent the league as a conference champion. So, and a very attainable goal. You look at the midway point through the season, and even though the brunt of conference play is on the backside of us, there's not one team that just looks unbeatable out there in terms of league play. Obviously, Arkansas State, Western Kentucky are both very good, but Western Kentucky showed they're vulnerable, lose to South Alabama. Louisiana Lafayette playing very good football. Monroe took a huge blow when Colton Browning, their preseason Sun Belt Player of the Year, goes out with an injury, and he's gone for the year. So a lot of opportunity for us for Trojan football, and certainly we want to try to take advantage of that.
And get that win this weekend. John, well, thank you for joining me, and hopefully Trojans will bring back a win.
Thanks, Aaron.
And stay tuned. We'll have some more Trojan sports coming up on It's Tea Time.
I've been taking classes at Troy online for years. The staff and the professors, they care about developing me, not just academically, but in my future career. I feel that Troy is preparing me for my next mission.
On campus or online, Troy offers you an extraordinary education that can take you anywhere you want to go. Troy University. It's all you need to know.
I'm John Phillips. I'm an active duty soldier attending school full-time, and I choose Troy.
And we're back with cross-country coach Jeff Jenkins. Jeff, big weekend in Louisville, big race, big in all ways to describe it, right?
Absolutely. We had, in the women's race, we had about 330 runners in the race, and it gets a little crowded in conditions like that, so we had some fun.
And now crowding, obviously, does that pose any issues when you're actually running the race, having that many people out there?
Absolutely, and a lot of the meets that we schedule, we're going to run against fewer teams, and that's going to be how our Sun Belt Championships are going to be. 9 teams on the men's side, 10 teams on the women's side. But when we have 35 teams or something like that, it poses for a little bit of an issue. But it's something that we're going to see at regionals, and hopefully down the road, these athletes will see that at national championships. But it causes some problems, with getting knocked down in the middle of the race and having to get back up and still having to fight that crowd and get good fitting and run good tangents. Run shorter distances instead of having to run all the way around a certain spot. They can run from one point to the next, and it makes those kind of things difficult. And we had a few issues with that.
And now, of course, if you have those issues, things like falling down, are there any potential for injuries or worries or concerns about that sort of thing when you're running a race like that?
There are, and we've had to deal with that this week. We had a couple of athletes, 2 females in particular, that are actively seeking treatment right now. But I think they'll be ready to go this weekend. Whether we race them or not, that just depends on how they look this week. But I think problems like that pop up every now and then. But the good thing is it's regular season. Things like that can happen, and we can learn from the mistakes and learn how to race in the bigger races like that.
And of course, you're talking about this weekend. Obviously, get to come home. The Coach O, for the second time, your runners get a chance to run on the home course, but of course this time it's going to be a little bit different from the first time they ran it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and we always say it's very symbolic for us to come to the Coach O meet, because typically it symbolizes our last regular season meet, and it's kind of our shutdown for the regular season and gearing up for the championship season. That's kind of what we're doing. Our last regular season meet is actually going to be at the University of Alabama, but it's just a preview for the regional course later on, so we kind of still see that symbolism there. But being at home and sleeping in our own beds, running in a much smaller meet this time, and so we're not having to deal with those crowding issues, and learning the course that they're going to be racing at the Sun Belt Championships. It makes a big difference.
And of course, you talk about a smaller field. How small are we talking about?
We're looking at probably about 4 schools on each side. 7 total schools have told me that they're probably going to come, but different ones have different agendas. Jacksonville State and Alabama told me they're going to bring a men's squad, and then Georgia State and Alabama A&M said women only. So we're going to get other schools too. Alabama State is going to come, bringing men and women. And Division II school, Albany State, they're going to bring men and women's squads. So we'll get some good competition, a few unattached runners. But at the end of the day, it's a course preview for us. It's a chance to run the course without being incredibly crowded, and once again, closing out the regular season, getting ready for a championship.
And of course, a big transition from last weekend to this weekend when you barely make it on the course, and this time they'll have plenty of room to run, right?
Absolutely, and I think, based on what we're seeing, we'll have a good shot at winning both sides, depending on who brings which runners. Some of our runners will be racing all out, but we'll hold some back just to kind of run it as a tempo run and hopefully try to pull some of those back runners along with them. So at the end of the day, the team score is what matters, and that's what we're going for this weekend.
And of course, this is the second run here at Troy this season, but it's a different course than the first time around, right?
Well, we now have access to the new golf facility, which is very, very nice for us to have. We're not having to scratch and claw for extra ground like we're going to. It's going to be very pristine, very well mowed, good footing, no running on slants or anything like that like we did before. So a good opportunity to run on a championship caliber course without having to make all the big adjustments that we had to make last time. For sure.
And of course, you talk about a championship caliber course, and obviously that is where they're going to be running the Sun Belt Championships. You're the host, so it's an opportunity to get a practice run on the course they're going to have to run on later.
Exactly, and for us, that makes a lot of difference. And for us to have a home field advantage per se, it's not necessarily the crowd, but it's the hills and the undulations on the course, and they know how to run the first mile, how to run the second mile. Those kinds of things make a big difference. And other schools aren't necessarily going to get a chance to see that and get a chance to feel what it's like to run on that course and practice on that course every morning. So it's a good opportunity for them and a good advantage for them going into the Sun Belt Championship.
And of course, I would assume that it gives you a chance to work on who's going to be running on that race come the championships.
Right, and it's an easy decision for us. It's not something that we have to sit around and talk about really. We've made it pretty objective for them. The first 8 runners across the line are going to be the 8 runners that go to the University of Alabama for regionals and that run at the Sun Belt Championships here for conference. And so for them, a lot of people there are really fighting for that 8th spot, and so there may be some big races towards the back end and different people trying to earn their spot on the team.
Now, if anyone is interested in coming and cheering on the Trojans, when and where can they do that?
Okay, the same starting line that we had for the last meet, so if anybody saw that, it's the practice football fields right next to the arena, and all the stuff will be set up so it'll be easy to see. Flags everywhere. The men's start time is at 10:30. Excuse me, the women's start time is at 10:30. The men is 11 a.m.
All right, well, good luck with the Coach O this weekend, and good luck down the road for the championships here at Troy, and good luck to the team, and hopefully they'll have a chance to check out that course and do a good job.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks. And thank you. We'll have some more Trojan sports coming up later in Tea Time.
Troy has given to me so much more than I ever anticipated, and it creates that desire to keep doing something better. There's a perfect opportunity to get involved. Troy has many organizations here on campus that just give you the opportunity to find your niche here, to find your home, to find your passion.
On campus or online, Troy offers you the hands-on experience you need to pursue an exciting career in communications and journalism. Troy University. It's all you need to know.
My name is Liz. I study broadcast journalism at Troy, and I am a Troy Trojan.
Welcome back. I'm joined with Chris Bentley, soccer coach, and Chris, Arkansas sweep, pretty good thing to have on the schedule this season. It's been a while since that's happened, right?
Yeah. We're really excited. I guess it's since 2005. So to get a couple wins against 2 quality opponents, I think was great. Arkansas State certainly was in one of the runnings for, and picked even to be one of the conference contenders this year. And Arkansas Little Rock is their results right now are not indicative of how good of a team they are. That was certainly a challenge on Sunday. So it was 2 great results for us.
And of course, out of those games, had a couple of good freshman performances out of there in those the scores in those games. Talk a little about the freshman play and what you had come out of that.
Well, I think you've seen some real good competitors come out of both of those. Nisi scoring in the game against Arkansas State, and then the game against Arkansas Little Rock having Abby do it. And they're both in that position. Nisi's been interchanging between a striker and a midfield forward position, and then Abby being in the striker position. So it's been certainly advantageous for us to have a couple players that are dangerous in the attack, and coming on as freshmen, it's been really cool to see. But overall, team performance in both of these, to get shutouts, clean sheets in those games, I think was massive, and the defensive effort in both of those games when we had the lead really showed a lot of dogged effort, and it was good. It was great.
And of course, in conference play, obviously even better to be able to pick up those key conference wins.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, certainly, to have the shutouts, to get the wins, I mean, you need those in a weekend, and it was certainly not an easy weekend. So to have that and come out of that, I think it given us some confidence, but we've got one heck of a test this weekend as well.
Well, let's talk about this weekend. Obviously, you've got a road trip, one of the first true road trips that you've had this season. Talk a little about that.
Well, we've got Western Kentucky on Friday, and then Georgia State on the Sunday. So it's travel up to Bowling Green and then on our way down to Atlanta. So both teams are certainly good teams. Western Kentucky's in the driver's seat right now. If they were to win out, they'd win conference. So we expect that to be one heck of a game. And then not to take anything away from Georgia State, I think they're just as comparable in terms of their ability to compete on the field. And it's going to be a tough weekend, but I think our girls are ready for it, especially after this last weekend. We had to go to battle for sure.
And of course, this is one where you've got 2 games on the road. So obviously a little bit of a change than what you've seen in the past few weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we've had kind of split weekends that have been going on back and forth. This last weekend, the same kind of thing. And, the new conference setup, there's some new dynamics we had to deal with. So this one will be a full 4-day road swing. So it's good for us. I think it'll be good for team camaraderie, but at the same time, it'll be a different change-up. So it'll be unique, and the girls will have some fun with it, I'm sure.
And of course, looking at the schedule, obviously you've gotten some good conference wins, but you're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the postseason. And how are things looking and feeling right now for the Trojans looking to that postseason?
Well, we're in the control of our own destiny, really. If we were to win out right now, we'd be conference champions. So it's not as if we're in any place where we're not doing well. But I think that first and foremost, we've got to come into Friday and expect to compete, and take it one game at a time. But, it's really about getting better, getting ourselves the best seed possible, getting into the tournament, and then once we're in the tournament, anything can happen. So hopefully with a better seed, it makes us more competitive.
And get a good chance to maybe have yourself in a good position to make it in the postseason, and then maybe even beyond conference if that's a possibility. So
that'd be great.
We'll start this weekend, and you've got Western Kentucky and Georgia State, and if anybody, you're playing Georgia State on Sunday. So if anybody goes up to see the football team, stay overnight, get a chance to see the soccer team play up there as well.
Right.
Good luck this weekend, and
Thank you.
Good luck with the rest of the season.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
And thank you for joining us. Tune in coming up next for a little bit more on It's Tea Time.
We graduate passionate people who are excited about their degree and about their profession. Hospitals, facilities, they want Troy graduates. From undergraduate to nurse practitioners, Troy nurses are sought out.
Troy offers you an extraordinary education and a degree sought after by top employers. Troy University. It's all you need to know.
I'm Kelly. I'm a nurse practitioner. I have my doctorate from Troy, and I'm a Troy Trojan.
And now volleyball coach Sonny Kirkpatrick joins me. And Sonny, had a big weekend. You got 2 out of 3 over the course of the homecoming weekend. Tell us, talk about a little about how things went that weekend.
Well, I mean, it started off at South Alabama on Wednesday, a place we've never won in 3 down there, and went down there and squeaked out a 26-24, 26-24, 26-24 match down there. Did some really nice things. We're overcoming a little bit from the weekend prior. We had to make some adjustments, and getting a 3-0 win down there we'll take any day of the week. I was really proud of the team. Lafayette came in on Friday, and we knew we were in for a really difficult match, and ended up playing really well, winning 3-0. Played really well, a step up from Wednesday night. And then, it's always good to get 2 good wins, Sun Belt wins, 1 on the road, 1 at home. Had to play Little Rock on Monday. We were expecting the tropical storm / hurricane, and we had to make some adjustments to the schedule, and ended up losing in 5 yesterday, a really difficult match. You got to give Little Rock credit. They made plays when they needed to in Game 5, and unfortunately we didn't.
And so, in a schedule like that, obviously you did have an extra day there when the game got moved to Monday, but that kind of schedule seems like a lot of games have to fit in such a short amount of time. Is that something that affects the team when you have to do that?
You know, everybody has to do it, so it was not just us that had to do it. Everyone, with the exception of UT Arlington and Texas State, had to play their travel partners midweek. So everyone was under the same schedule. So, you know, the only nice thing about it was we were at home and we didn't have to travel. Little Rock had to travel to, they went to Monroe for Friday night and had to drive in here for the weekend.
And so, of course, now did the having to push the game for the Storm have any effects on things there? Did you get a little extra rest? Obviously, there was a win there, but did you see that playing a factor in Monday's game?
I don't think so. It still came down to us needing to perform and do the things that we had done on the previous Wednesday and Friday, and we didn't do what we needed to do to win. And unfortunately, that was the result of it.
And now, of course, with that, you are in the middle of a 4-game homestand, with the Monday game being the second of those. You got 2 coming up this weekend. Obviously, you got to be excited about keeping it here on the home turf for a little bit.
We love playing at home. How can you not love our arena? But we know Georgia State coming in here on Friday night is going to be a really difficult task to beat them. We played them last year in the first match, and they beat us 3-0. So we've got to make sure that we handle our business and try to get better before then. And then Monroe's coming in off their first win. They beat South on Saturday or Sunday in 5. They were down 14-11 in the 5th game and came back and won. So we've got our hands full this weekend, and we're just trying to get better as we go through our season, and we're only as good as our next match. So we're only as good as Friday night.
And of course, you're in the heart of conference play now. So obviously, I would think there's a little bit more of a push, because these are the games that are important. All games are important, but conference wins, you've got to get these conferences. I guess there's an added emphasis to getting these conference wins coming up here.
Exactly. Conference is vital to what we want to do and where we want to go. And you know, losing to Arkansas State in 5 and then losing to Little Rock in 5 kind of put us a little bit behind the 8 ball. Could easily be 4-1 right now, but we're 2-3. So we need to do whatever we have to do to leave everything on the floor, to compete, and to make our university and our fans proud.
And of course, is there any added benefit of Monday's game, the fact that you take it to 5 and being able to, you know, maybe the changes, some things you can work on to next time if you face them in conference play?
We've got a lot to work on. I mean, they had the Conference Player of the Year from last year on their team. We know she's good. We actually kept her below her kills per game average, so that if there's any kind of benefit to that, you know, we did a really nice job on her. You know, they've got another young lady on that team that's really good too, and we did not control her very well through the first 4 games. So there's a lot of stuff to work on, and it just comes down to us making sure that we're mentally prepared to take the floor.
And of course, that next game this Friday night, Georgia State coming to Troy. You get a chance to tackle Georgia State before the football team does on Saturday, but you'll be at home, so you're thinking you want a big crowd and good Trojan support out there.
We'd love to have everybody out there to try to set the weekend tone for the Georgia State weekend. You know, we would love to be 1-0 going into the football game on Tuesday, and have naturally the football team finish 2-0 on the weekend.
There you go. Wrap it up with the game Friday night. And what time tip-off?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Well, good luck with the weekend games here at Trojan Arena, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Aaron.
And stay tuned for more Trojan sports coming up on It's Tea Time.